Just moments ago, a second day of high-level trade talks between the U.S. and China wrapped up in Switzerland. The president's top trade negotiators emerged from the meeting in Geneva, touting, quote, substantial progress and appearing to confirm that a deal between the two countries has been reached.
I'm happy to report that we made substantial progress between the United States and China in the very important trade talks. First, I want to thank our Swiss host. The Swiss government has been very kind in providing us this wonderful venue, and I think that led to a great deal of the productivity we've seen. We will be giving details tomorrow, but I can tell you that the talks were productive. We had the vice premier, two vice ministers who were integrally involved, Ambassador Jameson and myself, and I spoke to President Trump, as did Ambassador Jameson last night, and he is fully informed of what is going on. So there will be a complete briefing tomorrow morning. I will turn it over to the ambassador.
Thank you, Secretary. I want to echo the Secretary's remarks with respect to the Swiss government. They've been so welcoming and they've hosted this, and everything has gone off flawlessly, and we appreciate that. And again, to the Chinese negotiators, Vice Premier Liu He, Vice Minister Li Qiangong, and Vice Minister Liao Min worked very diligently, and these are very tough negotiators. A couple of them I know from before and have had past interactions with them. And this was, as the Secretary pointed out, a very constructive 2 days. It's important to understand how quickly we were able to come to agreement, which reflects that perhaps the differences were not so large as maybe thought. That being said, there was a lot of groundwork that went into these 2 days. Just remember why we're here in the first place. The United States has a massive $1.2 trillion trade deficit. So the president declared a national emergency and imposed tariffs. And we're confident that the deal we struck with our Chinese partners will help us to work toward resolving that national emergency.
I would just conclude with saying it was done in the spirit of cooperation, shared interest, mutual respect, and we look forward to sharing the details with you tomorrow morning.
All right, CNN's Betsy Klein is joining us now from the White House. A lot of optimism coming from those statements.
That's exactly right, Frederica. I mean, this has the potential to be a very significant development and one that could have massive implications for the global economy. I just want to remind our viewers how we got here. Just over a month ago, President Trump imposed those sweeping 145% tariffs on most Chinese goods. This really injected a significant amount of uncertainty into the global economy, and U.S.-China trade relations have essentially been at a stalemate ever since. Now, moments ago, we heard from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and the United States Trade Representative Jameson Greer, who emerged from those 2-day talks with their Chinese counterparts in Switzerland, really touting significant progress that has been made. Greer characterizing it as a deal. The White House also in an email saying that this is a deal, should be considered a trade deal. The president yesterday had said after this first round of talks that there was a total reset with China, and it is very clear that progress has been made. But I want to underscore a couple of points that Greer made in that video you just showed. He said it is important to understand the differences were not so large as maybe thought. He also said there was a significant amount of groundwork that went into these talks, and he said we are confident the deal we struck with our Chinese partners will help resolve the national emergency that President Trump declared in April. Now, Greer, even after these Trump administration officials spent the week really downplaying expectations ahead of these talks, they had characterized them as a positive first step, but said they really did not expect a final deal to be announced this weekend. And Bessent, for his part, had suggested that this was really aimed at de-escalating those tensions with China. What we still don't know, Frederica, is what both sides were able to agree to as far as a tariff rate. Of course, we saw President Trump floating that 80% tariff rate. And he told our colleague Kristen Holmes on Friday in the Oval Office that he was open to another number that he had told Bessent to negotiate with. He declined to share that number. Now, Bessent says more details will be shared on Monday morning. Of course, markets, consumers, investors, and businesses will be watching that quite closely. Of course, the president is set hours from now to depart on the first major foreign trip of his second term to the Middle East. Clearly excited to head there with a win under his belt, potentially, Frederica.
All right, we're looking forward to more details. Joining me right now to talk more about these developments is Kenneth Rogoff. He is a professor of economics and the chair of international economics at Harvard University. He's also a former director of the International Monetary Fund and the author of the new book, Our Dollar, Your Problem. Professor, great to see you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so we don't know the details on this possible trade deal with China, but set the stage for what's at stake for the U.S. economy with these trade talks ongoing with China. We did at least hear some optimism coming from our top U.S. representatives in Geneva.
Well, I think, as you say, we just don't know the details. Is this a reset? Is it a partial ceasefire? Normally, these kind of talks, there's so many issues, take months, years, so we'll see what comes out of it. But a tremendous amount is at stake for the U.S. and the global economy. First of all, our relationship with China is just incredibly important across so many dimensions. But also, there's so much uncertainty. Yeah. We had 145% tariffs, maybe there are 80% tariffs, but we sort of trade with China has been halted. So if there was a deal, and we actually believe both sides would keep to it, I think it would also set the stage for making other deals and sort of ending this huge uncertainty we've had. But I wouldn't, go dancing about it just yet. Let's see what happened.
If there were a deal or something particularly promising, do you feel like that announcement would be made today ahead of the Asian markets opening, and perhaps it would start to at least make an impact there? Or does it tell you something that details will be revealed instead as promised tomorrow?
I think moving by tomorrow is already really fast. I mean, there are so many things to discuss. I don't know what comes in it. For example, respect for our intellectual property rights. They're cyber spying on us all the time. And frankly, closing up the trade deficit, which the president portrays as a national emergency, is going to also mean a lot less lending into the United States, which is going to put upward pressure on our interest rates, which are already high.
President Trump has suggested, he may lower the tariff rates, for China down to 80% from 145. I mean, you mentioned that, but earlier today, the president's Commerce Secretary said the administration plans to keep a baseline tariff for the rest of the countries the U.S. trades with. Take a listen to what was said.
So we do expect a 10% baseline tariff to be in place for the foreseeable future. But don't buy the silly arguments that the U.S. consumer pays. Businesses, their job is to try to sell to the American consumer. And domestically produced products are not going to have that tariff. So the foreigners are going to finally have to compete. They're going to have to compete. What happens is the businesses and the countries primarily eat the tariff.
Should we buy that?
No, I mean, that's just nonsense. The consumers are mainly going to pay the tariff. There are certain high-end goods with big markups where the businesses may take some of it, but the evidence is all that the American consumer is going to pay a lot. It's going to put upward pressure on inflation. But if they reach some certainty, that's going to be a big improvement. I'm skeptical that we're going to get there, anytime before the end of the summer, and I'm not sure we're going to get there then.
Wow. Okay. Professor Ken Rogoff, great to see you. Thank you so much for your expertise.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.